Some people call me, a neocon. Some people call me a socialist. Some people call me a fascist. A lot of people like to say a lot of things about me. I don't care what you say about me as long as you read me. This is what I tell people. If you really want to hurt me, if you really want to hurt my career, don't read me. Because every time you're talking about me, every time you're reading me, you're just promoting me. Thank you. Gracias.
Para bailar la bamba, para bailar la bamba, para bailar la bamba, que necesita una poca de gracia. Por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré. Baila bamba, baila bamba, baila bamba, baila bamba.
Here it is, the Baco Tunes podcast with Matt Munoz. Audio brought to you by Chain Cone Clark.
Greetings, Baco Tunes podcast listeners. It's your host, Matt Munoz. Happy New Year. It's 2024. Are you ready for the new year? A new you, a new me, and of course, a list of New Year's resolutions? Well, we're here and there's no turning back now, so you might as well just go with it. Okay, let's get to our first Baco Tunes of 2024. My guest this episode is award-winning SoCal journalist, author, professor Gustavo Arellano. I've been a longtime reader and fan of Gustavo's work for years, going back to his Ask a Mexican column I would read in the pages of the LA Weekly. I pick up those free music news and scene rags at all the cool record stores and art galleries in Hollywood and read them over and over, and the Ask a Mexican column was something I look forward to in every issue I managed to pick up. Over the course of his career, Gustavo has covered everything from the history of Orange County politics and that area's racist past, tons of great food reviews where he's championed classic Mexican cuisine, especially the art of tacos, and we're just getting started. His support for local Mexican cuisine and history also extends to event production. Remember Tacolandia? I do. My wife and I were co-judges at the last one. It was a blast. You should have been there. Now that Tacolandia is gone, you can find Gustavo overseeing his annual Great Tortilla Tournament held in collaboration with the hipper-than-thou KCRW. And of course, we cannot forget the critics and the controversy that Gustavo's writings attract, just for doing his job. We're talking about a guy who's taken on the Orange County KKK and the LA County Sheriff. And of course, remember the Flamin' Hot story? Those writings can all still be found online. He's also been a keynote speaker at the commencement of his alma mater, UCLA. Stay tuned, you might hear a soundbite. Gustavo's also a no-nonsense stand-up guy, too. When asked to cut his staff in half during his stint as editor-in-chief of the OC Weekly in 2017, he responded with ways to save them from the chopping block. When that didn't work, Gustavo voluntarily resigned, putting himself back on the freelance trail. He's been hustling ever since. Remember the animated Border Town show on Fox? He worked on that, too. Quick story about that. When the Border Town pilot was being previewed, I worked on getting a screening of it here in Bakersfield. I made attempts with everyone from the Kern County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to the Bakersfield College and CSUB campuses for a viewing. Why not, right? Well, the few responses I got from those who privately viewed the screener was a mix of horror, laughter, silence, and we don't want to touch this. So much for the support. Anyway, it was eventually screened at the Maya Cinemas in Bakersfield for free, thanks to our friend and supporter, civil rights icon Dolores Huerta and her daughter Lori De Leon, who stepped in to secure a theater for a screening and Q&A session. Just wanted to drop that in. Now, if you hear a few references regarding the Hollywood writer's strike, it's because we recorded this interview back in October 2023. Why did it take so long to upload, you ask? Well, I'm busy too. Enough talk. You've heard him on the Tom Leykis show. Engaged with him during his weekly Gritale Aguti on Instagram Live, watched his episode of Taco Chronicles on Netflix, subscribe to his weekly Desmadre newsletter, etc., etc., etc. Now at last, you can finally hear him here. It's my homie, Gustavo Arellano, on the Baco Tunes podcast. So, Gustavo Arellano. So I have a list of labels here that I've kind of compiled. It's not a very long list, but you tell me, as someone who's, you've been on both sides of the microphone, tell me if any of these labels describe you. And you can just respond with a yes or a check, and then we'll discuss. Okay, so Gustavo Arellano, journalist.
Yes.
Author.
Yes.
Professor.
Yes.
Multimedia show host.
Sure.
Part-time rabble-rouser.
No.
Media gadfly.
Malcontent, more like it.
But what about close relative of actress Jessica Alba, as cited on your Wikipedia page?
Distant.
All right, well, the real Gustavo Arellano, please stand up. How are you doing, brother?
Good, man. Thank you as always for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned before we started recording, was that trying to tell your story is going to be impossible because it just continues to grow. There's another chapter being pretty much written every single day. As somebody who just follows your work and been a fan, we're friends, and so I'm very familiar with a lot of your stuff. But we wanted to give kind of people a glance into the daily schedule, kind of a day in the life of Gustavo Arellano. But in order to do that, we have to kind of go, I guess, condense some of your history together. And myself as a journalist, I'm always interested in like the early years. And when I've interviewed a lot of my subjects, it's one of the questions that they don't always get asked because, depending on whatever outlet that is interviewing them, they don't always seem to be interested in the past. But however, myself, as kind of like almost a Chicano Ken Burns, I like to go a little bit deep diving and sometimes, but I really want to know about your history. And I know you probably retold this story a lot, but you're telling it to me this time. So I want you to, if there's anything that maybe you have never shared with anybody else that's interviewed you, trust me, I'm going to dig it all. But let's talk about your history. So to me, it all starts in Orange County. What was it like growing up in Orange County?
I mean, it wasn't really what you would think. People would assume Orange County is evil and anti-Mexican, which it totally is. But that wasn't the environment that I grew up in, because you say my story starts in Orange County. It really starts in Zacatecas, where my family's from. And so their diaspora, my great-grandpa and grandpa came to Anaheim specifically in like the late 1900s. So my grandpa grew up here, but then he moved back to Mexico and married my grandma, mi mama Chela. And so my mom was born in Zacatecas, came to the United States when she was 9, worked up in Gilroy and Hollister for a little bit. Then they settled in Anaheim in the mid-1960s, but they were part of a diaspora. So growing up, like, I was surrounded by Mexicans. And it's interesting because I always remember, like, looking, when I was in kindergarten, I have a distinct memory of being taken to the beach on a field trip along with, like, the seniors from, I would assume it's Anaheim High School, because that was a high school that pertained to my elementary school, Thomas Jefferson, and eventually that's where I would go. And I remember those high schoolers were white. So I just assumed that every year that I moved up, the school system got more and more Mexican. So by the time I was a senior in 1997 from Anaheim, like 90-some% of the school district was Mexican. So I never say that I suffered much discrimination from white people growing up, because I didn't. I suffered more discrimination from everyone for being a nerd. That's my upbringing. It's like the nerd. And at a time where nerds were not cool. Now it's different. Now kids could wear glasses, and for the most part, people leave them alone. Not when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, what are your parents? Now, your parents are no longer with us.
No, my mom's no longer with us.
Yeah. Okay. What were their names?
Lorenzo Arellano y María de la Luz Arellano Miranda.
Oh, you have the real long names. Yeah, because I've seen the Gustavo Arellano Miranda. You've used it on your Facebook profile.
Yeah.
Now, is that a way to kind of like have your own separate life? Because when people do the search, or maybe they're trying to hunt you down.
No. When I started as a journalist, I wanted to use the full name, Gustavo Arellano Miranda, because that's a Mexican name.
Yeah.
Like on my belt buckle, mi cinto piteado,
yeah.
the acronym for my initials is GAM, Gustavo Arellano, which is my dad's last name, and Miranda is my mom's surname. Like my dad's buckle is Lorenzo Arellano Perez. But I don't know. I just never got around to it. Then I just got to establish as Gustavo Arellano. So when I started Facebook, Facebook also says that I was born in Yermo. So like, it's a bunch of lies.
Now, were your parents, were they really strict traditional Mexican parents?
Yeah, but I was also the oldest male, no less. And, and the oldest of the family. So I could get away with whatever I wanted. But I mean, I'm a nerd. So most of the time growing up, I just wanted to read. I wanted to hang out with my best friends who were my cousins. So we were at my uncle Ezequiel's house.
Yeah.
and our mutual best friend Art lived across the street, so it wasn't like we were getting into a whole like we were going to get into a whole bunch of trouble. We weren't doing drugs. None of my friends have ever been into drugs. Some of them did marijuana, which I think is stupid, but whatever. Yeah, some alcohol, but like nothing. Like we weren't going around, and we were all nerds, so no girls liked us. So it was just playing video games, watching porn, and reading books, and mostly sports. Well, above everything, it was sports. All my friends were athletes. I wasn't, but I would have my flashes of brilliance every once in a while. So even if my parents were strict, there was really nothing to be strict about,
Yeah, but no. How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of 4.
Oh, oldest of 4. Okay, so what, brothers, sisters?
2 boys, 2 girls.
2 boys, 2 girls. Okay, so you were, the various personalities within the kids, were your brothers and sisters all kind of the same? Were you guys all nerds, or one was the jock and all that?
No. Everyone's smart. I'm the smartest by far because I'm the nerdiest by far. But like all my siblings played sports. My sister, for crying out loud, one of them was a homecoming queen.
Oh,
so that's all you need to know about her. But she wasn't one of these like flighty ones. She ended up going to UCLA. My other sister went to UCLA as well for her master's. But we're all college educated. But I was always the weirdo. All my siblings, they are in. They're educators. Yeah, they're educators all in their own way. I was the one who decided to become a reporter. So I was always the weirdo. They were always more just polite. I was always the crazy one, the one who wouldn't go to parties because I was busy reading.
You grew up 90s Orange County. And what you described, it was like, it's definitely different from what I kind of envisioned. I have the answer. So like you kind of answered some of the questions right there of how you described coming up. So 90s OC, it's kind of coming in the shadow of the early punk rock scene. Now I want to talk about kind of the whole teen social environment that's going on in Orange County, because here in Kern County we had what we have, but when you think about Orange County, Southern Cali, definitely Orange County in the 90s, the first thing I think about is like No Doubt and like and a lot of that stuff. So you were right in the middle of all that. You saw that happening all around you.
Yes and no, because again, you have to remember Anaheim High was 95% Latino. So we had punks, yes, but I didn't hang out with anyone. I hung out with my best friends. But just remembering like the big cliques, there were Rebel Crews, there were Rebel Crews, Tagging Crews, and then straight up just Cholos. No Doubt, they didn't start blowing up really like nationally until my senior year in Anaheim, so 1997. Then all of a sudden, oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I never really liked the music. I mean, there's some songs that are jams for sure, but like I will always be a defender of Gwen Stefani in particular, because everyone accuses her of cultural appropriation. It's kind of true. But look, I grew up with white girls just like her who ended up marrying Mexicans, and they didn't know what white culture was. They were working class white kids growing up with Mexicans and Indians and all of that. And they thought that all their friends had the way cooler culture than their boring ass white culture. So of course, Gwen ended up pretending she was Indian and Mexican, Chola, and Japanese, and all of those things. Like she shouldn't do that. But again, I know that type of girl, and and honestly, all those girls, like the one thing Gwen didn't do was marry a Mexican, because all the white girls that I knew either did or dated Mexicans. I mean, Gwen dated Tony Canal. Don't Speak is all about their relationship. So, but at that time, yes, though the punk scene was really big in Orange County. Going to Linda's Doll Hut and Social D,
great place.
The Offspring. Yeah, no, Linda's Doll Hut's still there. But that just wasn't our Orange County. Our Orange County again, was in Anaheim, and it was like I knew more about James Dean than I would have, like, say, Darby Crash,
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned the whole thing with Gwen Stefani and how Latinos gravitated towards her. I mean, that because the Dickies and the kind of Chola look. Yeah. When I went to the Pond for the Tragic Kingdom homecoming show, it was definitely about 95% Mexicans in there. There's Chicanos in there.
At this point, only Mexicans truly love Gwen.
Yeah.
And again, because we all know that type of white chick. We all know that type of white girl, and we have no hate. I mean, the younger mocosos, they'll be like, oh, because I talked about Gwen to my class. I teach Latinx history of Orange County at Chapman University, and all my students, none of them like Gwen, and they were shocked that I was defending her. But they grew up in a different generation, like, now it's more multicultural, whatnot. But back then it was all Mexican. And like, yeah, if you're white, you're a Mexican too.
Oh, totally. Wow. That is, I can't believe how much time has passed from that, like it's definitely a completely different scene, and how like that whole no doubt thing and the Orange County connection and everything was just kind of like, it was just such a huge wave. But yeah, looking back on it now, it seems like it just happened, but man, it has been 20 years,
25 years, 25
yeah.
years, 25
yeah.
years, yeah.
And when they did that reunion tour, it was almost like they were a brand new band and nobody knew who they were. And like the excitement wasn't as much in the air as I expected, because it just seemed like, well, shoot, Gwen Stefani's so huge. You think that they would really want to see No Doubt. And I think there was kind of some nostalgia to it. But however, that's its own other thing. Okay, well, let's talk about books. When you're in high school and you're talking about being a big reader, what were the authors that you were into?
When I was in junior high, I especially liked Stephen King. And it's funny because I read...
Of course.
Yes. Why do you say of course?
Well,
That's
because,
funny.
okay, when I was in high school, we're talking about the 80s. So you're in the 90s and the 80s. The Stephen King books were, that's kind of like... Every kid had to completely read the Stephen King canon, every
That's
single
so funny.
Stephen King book. So,
I thought I was the only one.
Oh, no. And even my wife, Miranda, she's in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
She goes, of course, it was Anne Rice and Stephen King. So,
Yeah.
Okay, proceed.
Yeah, no, so Steve, but I stopped reading Stephen King. I'm trying to remember the last. Maybe Dolores Claiborne was the last one, and I've never read any Stephen King novels since. I don't know why I dropped them. Not that I thought he was bad, although Dolores Claiborne was whatever. But also just the American classics. So especially in elementary school, for some, because I was put into honors classes, or it was called GATE, Gifted and Talented Education. So I read Mark Twain. I read John Steinbeck, The Red Pony, my senior year, The Grapes of Wrath, which remains my all-time favorite novel. I read The Red Badge of Courage. I like Johnny Tremaine, smaller, like what kind of kids books, but historic, Sounder, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And then when I get into junior high, or rather when I get into high school, I'm just reading sports books, trivia, history, Joyce Carol Oates on boxing. I'm trying to remember.
So like a lot of the sports biographies. Were you reading those? Okay.
I was like biography, Sports Illustrated, and I was reading newspapers. So I was reading Jim Murray, Alan Malamud, Randy Youngman, Mark Wicker, all the columnists for the LA Times and the Orange County Register, just devouring all that stuff.
Okay. So pause right there. So when you're in junior high school, was there school newspapers? Were you on the team?
No.
Staff?
I had no aspiration. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to read. My senior year of high school, I did join the staff newspaper, but it only published for like 3 issues, and then the administration shut us down for God knows what reason. It was just a toxic relationship with the advisor, who ended up having a nervous breakdown, but he kind of brought it upon himself, to be honest.
Well, because a lot of those high schools, a lot of bigger high schools, we had one, and I wrote for it, but it was very, it was just kind of like a couple sheets of paper. But,
sure.
But I would think that in these larger cities that there would have some really big, like an established newspaper that would be allowed to, maybe be a little bit controversial, or was it just kind of a lot of fluff in sports, sports coverage?
Yeah, you have to remember though that we were Mexican high school, and it was basically filled with teachers in their 60s who had seen Anaheim transform in 30 years when they started from all white to all Mexican, and they did not like us Mexican students. They were not giving us the resources that we needed, and they were just counting down the years until retirement, so they weren't going to give a crap about us at all.
Oh wow, that's wild.
No, my high school, my wife just had her reunion, or it was pre-union, just a party with some of her friends, and there was like 20 of them who showed up, and they all have wonderful, beautiful memories of high school, and good for them. My high school memories, I do talk to people from my high school, but I always joke, because they'll invite me, you should come to our high school reunion. I'm like, I'll show up to the 50th, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I have not, I have no fond, like my fond memories of high school are very limited. I'm not saying every day was a nightmare, but there's just nothing there for me that I really care to revisit unless people ask me, and then then I'll tell them stories.
Wow. Okay, so this is really good because I have all these kind of preconceived notions about how life was for Gustavo Arellano to become this very acclaimed journalist. Everybody knows all across California, across the nation, and seeing you on the news and everything like that. So this is very interesting because it's definitely a very common kind of story that had no plans of being a journalist. But somehow you get pulled into this. Okay, so the whole developing your interests and everything like that, were you an avid newspaper reader? Were you reading all the news? Or were you just kind of like, I just want to read the sports and the funny page and that's it?
Yep, sports and comics. Every once in a while, I'd glance in the news or some of the other sections. So I remember random stories, especially with the LA Times, because it was such a well-written newspaper. And it's funny because when my mom passed away, we cleared out the attic of just stuff. And so up there, I had a bunch of front pages from the 90s, like O.J. Simpson, found innocent, the Oklahoma City bombing. It's interesting because I didn't have any 9/11 headlines, even though I subscribed to papers at the time. That's interesting. But like a lot of big stories, the North Hollywood shootout that happened with the LA Times, like I had a bunch of them because I had subscriptions early on, even though all I would read would be the sports section. Then just slowly getting into the news, but I didn't really start getting into news and the rest of the paper until I got into college. But my journalism school, if you will, was reading sports, and sports writing is some of the best writing in newspapers. And so between Sports Illustrated and the LA Times and Orange County Register, it was a great education.
I interviewed a young reporter here in Bakersfield who one of the few fellow CSUB alumni who actually like graduated from the comm program and got into journalism. And she said that the best advice that she got from an instructor, it was when she was going to Bakersfield College and writing for the Renegade Rip. She said, if you can write sports, you can do it. You can write about anything because sports is constantly changing and you have to follow all the data and all the statistics and everything like that. And so it's like, start with sports. The rest comes easy.
That's true. And the irony is I've written about sports, but it's never been a focus.
Since you're from the 90s, when I think about Latinos in news, because now you have you have the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, the Chicano Media Association, everything like that. But I guess discovering Latinos in news, I think that my earliest memory, and it's really funny now looking back, but like seeing one of the only kind of big Latinos on TV that we saw back in the 80s when I was growing up was Geraldo Rivera on 2020.
Yeah.
So you saw him doing his thing, and he'd been around for a long time. He had a very big reputation. I mean, my parents loved watching, Geraldo Rivera's on 2020, so the story's going to be good. And then you just start seeing the downfall and and everything like that. But besides Mexican TV news, which my parents would watch, we only saw Latino TV reporters on the LA stations that we get, which we would get KTLA, we got Channel 9. And I think until the late 80s into the 90s, do you start seeing more of a Latino presence in regular anchors? And now, we're everywhere. But who are you following? Because you're talking about in college, so it is a little bit later than I expected. I thought maybe you were like, I'm going to be Scoop Arellano. So there's obviously, this is good so that people really get to know your journey. But who were some of keep going.
Well, I went to school for film, and then I got into film studies. I didn't get into journalism until by accident my senior year in high school. And even when I was in film, I wanted to be Quentin Tarantino. I wanted to be Martin Scorsese. And I'm not going to be one of these people who are like, there was a lack of representation. And so I didn't think about those things. So I grew up watching news. I watched Channel 5 and I watched Channel 9. And so the people that I were watching on Channel 5, it was Hal Fishman, Stu Nahan, Ed Arnold. On Channel 9, of course, it was Jerry Dunphy and Pat Harvey. And so I didn't notice that they were, when I would see a Latino, like say Tony Valdez on Channel 11 or Kim Baldonado on Channel 4, I would just think oh yeah, that's cool. But I didn't think there needs to be more of us, or I need to find those people. And then when I was reading newspapers, especially, I would have noticed the Latino names. I wasn't seeing any. And I didn't start noticing them until 1999 when I started getting basically what started my career in everything. And the names that I saw, there were two columnists. And for the LA Times, the late Agustin Gursa, and for the Register, Yvette Cabrera, and they were like, you'd think I'd be proud of them, like, oh, Latino columnists, but I just found them very cheesy. I found them, this is what gets me in trouble with a lot of, a lot of professional Latino reporters, where I'm like, well, they were cheesy, and I get it. It was the 90s. Like, people thought like, oh, we'd have a black columnist, and we need to have an Asian columnist, and we need to have a Latino columnist, and they were not allowed to write about really anything else. And a lot of times I found that the columns were just apologias. They were just like, oh yeah, we're so mistreated and we're victims all the time. And to this day I say, like, I was never taught to be a victim. I'm a victim of nobody. Yeah, I got bullied. Yeah, I got harassed. Yeah, I got this and that. But my parents taught me, like, all right, if life's going to mess with you, then you either mess with it back, or better yet, just shut up and continue doing what you do, and like, you'll win that way.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into getting into like a lot of your journalism stuff, when you were talking about, okay, so you were going to film school, you wanted to get into movies and everything like that. Where had you started writing scripts? And I mean, do you have like a library of stuff that's kind of sitting back there in your office?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I have documents, things that I did going back to kindergarten. My mom kept almost all of it, and I remember almost all of it. Screenplays, I mean, I didn't know how to write screenplays. There are screenplays that I wrote in college, and I have them. I mean, the real treasures I have to find. I know I have them somewhere. Are the student films that I made at Chapman University, and I left filmmaking because, first of all, I realized a career in Hollywood would be hard, and and I needed to make money soon because my parents were immigrants, and like, we weren't exactly, we were never poor, but we weren't exactly pulling in the dough, or they weren't pulling in the dough. But so I remember getting annoyed because one of my teachers said that my filmmaking style was too European, just because I would hold on to a shot for like more than 5 seconds. I'm like, I was trying to be like Stanley Kubrick or some of these other people. Again, there was no Latino. Nothing Latino clicked for me per se, because it was just part of my life. In other words, I'd never really thought of being a professional Latino until activism sort of got into me, and then that was a different story. But yeah, no, all my papers, all my archives. I always tell my friends, like, all right, who's gonna get my papers? Because I have a lot of them, and sadly, I'd have way more if I kept all my emails. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What do you think about, what are your thoughts on Francis Truffaut?
Oh, Truffaut, oh my God, the 400 Blows, Jean-Luc Godard, the whole French New Wave. Once I got into that style of filmmaking, Jules et Jim, I wanted to be, again, I wasn't looking to La Época de Oro. I wasn't looking to Gregory Nava. I liked Mi Familia. Don't get me wrong. I Stand and Deliver. I liked all these films. But I mean, those were not my heroes. Like, I wanted to be, I wanted to do a version of the 400 Blows, or more, or better yet, Breathless. That's what I was into.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about. But like,
I own them. I'm a Criterion Collection.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. I wish I had the time to do that, but that was just, those were my intellectual heirs: Jean-Paul Sartre and existentialism, Immanuel Kant. I wasn't looking at Emiliano Zapata. I mean, I had pride for all those things, sure, but like, that wasn't my Northern Star, so to speak, or my North Star, so to speak.
This is wild. Okay, so
aspiring.
Yeah.
You're bringing answers out of me that I've never said before. So good job.
Oh yeah, well that's what I'm talking about. These are the parts. Once you just kind of gave me a little, you open the door a little bit. I'm gonna. Oh no, we got to address this because I think this is what people need to know. Fast forward into your entrance into journalism. When did that happen? And what was your first official writing gig where you actually got paid?
That. Paid. That would have been OC Weekly, easy. Was it 2000? Yeah, yes, it was. Because I mean, I've told this story many times before, but the long story short was I was volunteering on a campaign for Santa Ana Council, or she was running for Santa Ana Council. She became Santa Ana Council member. So late at night, I'm licking basically envelopes. And then I go to throw something away, and in the trash can, there's a copy of a newspaper I'd never heard of before called OC Weekly. By then, I was already involved in political activism. against anti-Mexican idiots in Anaheim. And I find this newspaper. I think it is an incredible newspaper. They had an April Fool's issue, just like the Onion, where it was all these fake news stories, like actual fake news, not fake news. So I wrote a letter to the editor, pretending to criticize them, but secretly being a fan. And then once I got the attention of the editor, I said, hey, like, how can I get you guys to do a story on this political campaign I'm volunteering for? And they didn't do a story on that, but instead they did a story on something else. So I became a tipster for them. Eventually, I overwhelmed them with so many tips that they said, well, or they must have thought to themselves, well, if this guy obviously knows what makes a story, how about if they write it, or he should write something? So my first paid gig, I got paid $100 to do a 700-word story about how the Republican Party was using Pete Wilson during the 2000 presidential campaign to scare Mexicans into voting Democrat. And I still have the pay stub. I still have the article. I still have the mailer that I cited. My mom made a whole little collage for me of it, which I still have to this day. I need to put a new frame on it, but yeah, I still have it.
That's wild.
She was proud of me.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't think I wanted to be a reporter at that time. Remember, this would have been my senior year at Chapman. I was already applying to go to grad school eventually I went to UCLA and got my master's in Latin American studies. I thought I was going to, I thought I was going to be a scholar, but something about writing about news, and especially writing about topics that no one else was writing about, just really rang with me. And to be able to go after idiots, that really appealed to me, because my life until then, and still to this day, was having to deal with idiots wanting to mess with me.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. So when you get that first gig, you get the first check, did you just continue kind of freelancing? And what were you doing for work? Were you working in retail or doing anything like that, and then freelancing on the side? What were you doing?
I was basically a data monkey for a collection agency. In other words, they would give me a bunch of files of people who were past due on their Toyota accounts, and I would just input them into into the computer, like with those old dot matrix computers, old school ones. They liked me, and they even said, like, oh, do you want to get into this industry? You could be a manager. I'm like, hell no. They just pay the bills. Hell no.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, I mean, hey man, it's a living. You got to pay the bills. Okay, so then when did you finally get that jump into, like, this is going to become a full-time thing for me to be a reporter?
My article on Pete Wilson comes out in November 2000. 2001, I'm finishing college, or my bachelor's degree at Chapman University. I enter into UCLA for my master's first semester, which I didn't really care for. Meanwhile, I'm freelancing more and more and more for the OC Weekly and some other publications as well. Like, I'm trying to get some sort of notoriety.
Yeah, how many freelancing gigs did you have at one time? Like, what was the most?
Well, that would be until that. I mean, my record was in 2018, but I'm getting ahead of that. But when I was starting, let's see, I was writing for Pacific News Service, which no longer exists. It ended up rebranding itself as New American Media, but I freelanced for them. I freelanced a lot, actually, for the Jewish Journal of Greater Los Angeles, so that was really cool. Just because I was familiar with Jewish culture, and so I was, and I was writing stories about interactions between Jews and Latinos, and not always nice. I did stuff for the OC Weekly. I have all those clippings, by the way, from those early years somewhere. But really just those publications. I wasn't really freelancing much, just because I was interested in it. And so and remember, I didn't know how to be a reporter, so I was terrible at it. But slowly but surely, ahí la estaba picoteando, just, picking at it slowly but surely. So by the time the winter quarter at UCLA starts, I have this class with, I'm not going to name him, but people know who he is. He's a legend in the field of Latin American studies, a gabacho. Came in with his dog and with a woman who just sat in the corner. She wasn't a student, but she was just there sitting in the corner. Lets his dog roam around on the table where we're supposed to have our discussion. Totally cocky guy. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take this class. So with our, after the break, I dropped out of his class, and I told the editor of the OC Weekly at the time, Will, hey, I want to drop out of school and become a full-time reporter. And he said, well, you shouldn't do that. First and foremost, I wouldn't have a job for you. Secondly, you're still not a good reporter. You're starting. More importantly, this program at UCLA is only 2 years, and they're paying you. I had a stipend to go to UCLA, so I you know, like, it wasn't just a scholarship. The scholarship I already had for the 2 years, but I had a stipend, so they were paying me to go to UCLA for the first year. So he said you would basically be rejecting free money. Just stick with it. You know, stick with it. Let's work on you becoming a reporter, and if by the time you graduate, if you've gotten to a certain level, then yeah, we'll make a job for you. That's exactly what happened. I stayed at UCLA. I started freelancing more. I mean, I got all A's in my classes. I think, I got all A's in my classes. And then when I graduated in 2003, lo and behold, a month later, I had a full-time job at OC Weekly.
How soon after that did Ask a Mexican appear?
Oh, Ask a Mexican wouldn't happen until November 2004. And by then, 2004 was I thought that was the best year OC Weekly ever had because, one colleague of mine put the mayor of Huntington Beach, exposed her so she would end up going to prison. Another colleague of mine covered this notorious gang rape trial in Orange County, and we were like just defining all this coverage. And I was doing stories on the Catholic Church sex abuse scandal. Like, I was a one-man spotlight, Spotlight the film about the Boston Globe taking down the Archdiocese of Boston. Well, that was me with the Diocese of Orange. And Ask a Mexican, which ends up getting me the first real notoriety outside of Orange County.
Yeah.
That starts that starts after the 2004 was it the 2004 election? That exact issue. I think it was the same issue where we had George W. Bush flipping off. It was a video of George W. Bush flipping off the camera, and we got that still and we put it on the cover of OC Weekly, which got us national attention for being so vulgar. But again, it was real. And that issue, we had an article drop out, so we needed to fill the space. This is a time when the OC Weekly was near its fattest. That would be 2005 to be specific. But so my editor, Will, he suggested that I do, we would do joke columns, like fake columns, and we'd call it, hey, new column. And so we decided to do this Ask a Mexican thing, saying all right, let's just do a pretend advice column about Mexicans. Just do it one time. Well, the reaction to it was so overwhelming, both good and bad, that we thought, well, let's continue doing this until there's no more questions to be answered. Well, that didn't happen. Ask a Mexican went from November of 2004 to October 2017. So that is a 13-year run. And I could have continued doing that column forever, except I did not own the trademark to Ask a Mexican. That was with the company, and at the point it was a idiot owner by 2017. And because I thought of doing that, but I'm like, nah, it has to go with the name. I'm not gonna if I just continue doing it but without the name, it's just gonna seem that I'm holding on to the past, and I've never been about the past. It's like what's in front of me and what's ahead of me.
So the popularity of Ask a Mexican, that's a little small segment. The stories that you're doing the heavy-hitting stories. You're doing exactly investigative pieces, the church scandals, the KKK and everything like that. Were you ever at a point where you're like, hey, I really wish people would know me more for my investigative reporting and not so much Ask a Mexican?
No, yes and no, because you're obviously a subscriber to my newsletter, and I have a, if you go to GustavoArellano.org, you can subscribe to my free newsletter. It comes out every Saturday, and it's really just done to push out to the world everything that I've done in the previous week, but I'll always write a small letter, kind of like a missile. And so what ended up, so I tell the story about how this past year, the University of North Carolina invited me to speak to their journalism program, one of their classes, specifically about writing columns, and specifically about the column that I do for the Los Angeles Times, which is, as I call it, Southern California everything and a bunch of the West and beyond. And I was very flattered because usually when I get speaking invitations, I'm asked to speak about being a Latino or Ask a Mexican or Orange County or my food journalism. And I have no issue talking about any of those. But sometimes I think like, well, I've also done all these things as well. Why am I never asked to talk about these other things? And that says more about the people doing the invitations than it does about my own work. So, and it's funny because people will know me for different things. Well, I mean, first and foremost, very, very few, like 99.999% of California has no idea who I am, which is fine. That always grounds me. But if people do know me, they usually know me for a part of me and rarely for the full me. Like in Orange County, people know me, oh yeah, you're the guy who wrote, who was an OC Weekly and did all these things. Food people know, like, oh yeah, you wrote about tacos. Church sex abuse victims obviously know me for my work on the church. Nowadays in LA, like, oh, you're the guy who writes about all those crazy council members in Los Angeles, or you wrote about the lunatic sheriff. So everyone knows me for something, but few people know me for everything. And it can bother me if I think about it, but I'm like, I should be happy people know me for anything, period. And more importantly, there's stories for me to do, and I'd rather focus my attentions on the stories that I need to do.
Let me ask you about being the editor of the OC Weekly. I'm not exactly familiar with the trajectory right there, but I know that you were the editor. But like, how was that experience, and how did you get that gig?
Well, that happened because the bosses, not Will, there was a schism at OC Weekly. In 2006, we got bought out by a chain that owned LA Weekly. Well, no, they ended up buying LA Weekly as well, but it was based out of Phoenix. It was called The New Time. And so they were hated by most people in the alternative press for being libertarian and supposedly conservative. I liked them because they were, they took no prisoners and they were beholden to no one, and their investigative work was impeccable. And so, but when they bought OC Weekly, 3/4 of the staff left and created their own newspaper in Long Beach. I was invited to go, but I refused because I'm like, I don't care about nothing against Long Beach, but I don't care about it. I care about Orange County. And so the owners must have seen that I could be, that I had potential in me. And the editor that they put to be in charge of us, he sucked. He was a nice guy, but he was terrible. So in 2010, they made me a managing editor. And then within a year, like there's such dissatisfaction with the staffers against the editor that management let him go and then made me editor. That would have been the fall of 2011. It's interesting. A lot of the key moments in my professional career have always fallen at the end of the year and usually in the fall. And so I became editor in 2011. I left the Post in 2017 when I left OC Weekly. And it was great because I never stopped writing. And I really, I really pushed for us to cover Orange County and the way Orange County was, go after, comfort the afflicted, afflict the comfortable, hire people who are from Orange County, not outsiders, because Orange County is a very hard place to understand. Any place is, but Orange County in particular, because a lot of our history is not really known, even to the people who live there. And when I left, the staff was, completely diverse. 50% of us were people of color. We had age diversity. We had sexual orientation diversity. We had a little bit of everything. We really were like a family. But, in my writing, very few people now will credit my editing or what I did with the OC Weekly. They'll remember me more as a writer than an editor, which again, of course, fine. But look, the reason Orange County got the notoriety that it did at the end in a good way was because of what we did at OC Weekly. I mean, yes, I was the boss, and I always tell people, you want to see my true legacy? Look at the people who worked under me or interned under me, my coaching tree, so to speak. I have people working at the New York Times, at the Atlantic, at NBC News, at the LA Times. I mean, 6 of us from the OC Weekly are now at the LA Times, and they all work, and the other, myself and 5 other folks, and they all worked under me. And yeah, I was able to see in them when they started talent that they didn't see, and I was able to foster that in them. So I think that's the best legacy I can possibly hold. Like, yeah, my writing, that's great, but look at the people who I helped get into journalism, and yeah. Oh, no, I mean, in the Valley, Melissa Montalvo with the Fresno Beat, she was my student at Orange Coast College. We never worked together, but she was my student, and I mean, look at her. So you want to talk about legacy? That continues. I always wanted to help people out because that's what I was taught by the folks at OC Weekly, like help out people, especially people who have talent that they still don't know about. And that's exactly what I continue to do. And like people could characterize me however they want, but go talk to the people who are part of my coaching tree. They'll tell you a whole different Gustavo.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. Well, as I mentioned, we've talked about this before. It's like I followed your work through the OC Weekly. Of course, Ask a Mexican, that's how I discovered you. But when you start getting into, we start seeing a little bit of the trouble happening at OC Weekly, and then eventually the layoffs that were announced at OC Weekly 2017. What did the suits expect you to do as the editor? They're like, hey, we're going to do this. How did that go down? What was the real story?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this as well. Mm-hmm. It was one guy, a boat millionaire from Newport Beach, who I still don't know why he bought the paper. It makes no sense. He wanted me to lay off half the staff, but I refused, and I delayed any motion on it for, what was it? I got the news in May, June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. So I delayed layoffs for 5 months, and I gave him a proposal. I asked him to make me publisher of OC Weekly because he said we were losing money. I'm like, make me the publisher as well. Make me in charge of making money for you. Give me 6 months. If after 6 months I'm not making money for you, you could fire me, and I'll tell the world, like, I deserve this firing because I made promises that I wasn't able to keep, and you'll save all this goodwill. Nope, he refused. I gave him a plan. I said, if you don't like my plan, I'll quit. And he said, well, it's not going to work out. And, so I thanked him. I shook his hand, and then I announced on Twitter that I was quitting, and I would tell the entire story in the Tom Leykis show, and that's exactly what I did. And it made the LA Times, New York Times, it made national news because you don't really hear of editors leaving their dream job and to avert layoffs. I mean, Fernanda Santos just did that at Futuro Media, and that's a brave thing to do because you don't have any job prospects. You don't have, you're at a dream job and you're trying to save journalists, and it doesn't always work out. And I was able to stave off layoffs for 5 months. The owner of the OC Weekly, he would start laying people off a couple months later, then ended up shutting down the paper in the fall of 2019, the Thanksgiving weekend, no less. The newspaper, and nothing against my colleagues, but the newspaper was never able to recover from losing me. Oh. I mean, I wrote a whole bunch of stuff. People were inspired to work under me, and nothing against the people who followed me, but that's just what happened.
Break time. We'll be back. It's the Baco Tunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
If you're injured at work, you need a team who knows the law, a team respected by our community and the legal industry, a team certified as specialists in work injury law. Chain Cone Clark, the team you need when it matters most.
Thank you. Gracias. Thank you. Before I begin, how many of you are from Orange County? 949. 714, baby, all the way. The only reason I ask is because I think it's a historic day today. Not just because you folks are graduating, because I'm from Orange County, I'm from Anaheim, and Flavia is from Irvine. So your two speakers are from Orange County. And what's best about this is traditionally in Orange County, USC was a school that all the Orange County, idiots would go to. I am glad to say that the best people from Orange County go to UCLA. All of you right there, and her. You can reserve judgment on me. Now my speech.
Now, when you mentioned the Tom Leykis show, because that was one of the questions, because we would get Tom Leykis over here in syndication in Bakersfield, and so I knew that you would appear on in his show, and I still follow him on X, and he's still he's active, but not as active as he used to be. But how long have you known him? Did you guys? You were always on there.
No, not always.
Okay.
In 2000, what changed my life was a front page story that my now colleague, Daniel Hernandez, wrote for the LA Times about Ask a Mexican. Mm-hmm. That got me a book deal. That got me national attention. That got me college gigs. It literally changed my career forever. I mean, I wonder what would have happened if Daniel had not. I mean, I still think I would have done a lot of things that I did, but it just rushed everything far faster than I could have ever imagined. And So I had been listening to Tom forever, of course, but Tom had me on in 2006, and so I was a monthly guest on his show until the very end. And he started doing his own streaming service, and I was a monthly guest almost from the start. So like I think it was 2012 until I left OC Weekly in 2017.
Wow, I know. Let's see. I'm going to be on Tom Leykis' show, and I was like, dang, man, I haven't heard Tom Leykis. I remember I used to listen to him like when I was a delivery driver, and he would do the thing about like have woman to, flash, to roll down your window and flash.
Yep. Flash Friday, absolutely. Blow me up, Tom. Oh, Tom's not for everyone, but Tom, I've always appreciated because he always said what he felt. He didn't back down from it. A lot of the advice that he gave was common sense, and specifically to men, like it was common sense knowledge. And oh my God, those shows were epic, because I would get drunk on the air. I mean, I'd have a designated driver, of course, and then like my friend would always drive me. But by the third hour, I was drunk out of my mind, and it was called the Be Funny. So I'd be there for 3 full hours. Like the first hour was me and Tom talking. The second hour was me answering Ask a Mexican questions about Mexicans. The third hour was called Be Funny, where people would just say jokes and people would insult me, call me all sorts of things, and I would be laughing the entire time. It was great.
Keep going.
I could not do that anymore, sadly. I'm sure the LA Times would not be happy with me appearing on the Tom Leykis show, at least in that capacity, like that freestyle capacity, but it was fun.
Yeah, is there an archive anywhere to hear any of those episodes?
I think you'd have to become a member of Tom's to get, because he hasn't done a podcast in a while, so I don't even know if he's still doing that, but you had access to all the archives for sure. So I'm sure someone else, I mean, Tom definitely has them. I don't know about other people, but like I got, if people are saying like, oh, we got to dig up info to, that could cancel him. I never said anything that I wouldn't have an explanation for nowadays. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The days of those type of radio shows, I mean, they kept us to, when I was like, that was like around the time when I hadn't even gone back to college, when I used to listen to those shows, and those kept us entertained as I was a delivery driver for many years. Yeah. And it was like, what would we do without those crazy shows?
And podcasts are fine, but I have to say there is something about the tension in someone calling live on the air and you don't know where the conversation's going to go. Podcasts can't do that. Podcasts are just friends talking to each other or, people talking, like having conversations, which is fine and important. But like, this is why the person I've listened to forever is Howard Stern. I don't even call him Howard Stern. I just say Howard. Yeah. And Howard, people now say, oh, he's not the same as before. And he is. He absolutely is. You just have to know sort of his trajectory and his neuroses. But Howard is at his best when he's having people call in and trash talking him or trash talking guests, like, because you don't know where the conversation's going to go. And that to me, like, I would have loved to have had my own talk show, but it just didn't work out that way, which is okay. I mean, but I kind of do that though on Instagram Live when I take people's questions live. It's different when I'm just reading stuff and like I'm not interacting with people, but I like not just attention, but as the host, you have to be able to entertain, and you have to be able to keep your audience, because the audience could hang up at any minute, and I like that challenge. Yeah.
Oh no, this is the golden age. Remember Larry King, Open Phone Friday? Yeah. And we come on really late at night, and you just listen to it. And then what's it called? There was Talk Back, and then there was Talk Net, and then there was the other guy used to do the conspiracy theory with the UFOs and everything.
Coast to Coast with George, it was Art Bell and George Nori.
Yeah, and he had his own thing. It was just like, any conspiracy, we'll talk about anything. I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man. Okay, so we definitely on point. We're on the same level with that. Okay, so back to freelancing, because after post OC Weekly, you go to the LA Times now as someone with the kind of a reputation for not only being a force in SoCal, but also someone who attracts and maybe courts a little controversy. Did you have to go through any sort of serious kind of ridiculous vetting process to get to the Times? I mean, because it would seem like it would be a no-brainer that they would just, once they found out, were people trying to hire you, or was it hard to get that next gig?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I don't court controversy. People think I just throw crap on the wall just to see if it sticks or goes through, and I don't. I write the truth. If people want to find me controversial, that's on them, not on me. The Times had been recruiting me forever. I remember as far back as 2007, it'd be one editor or one person after another, and I never had any ambition to excuse me, I never had any ambition to join the LA Times because I had my dream gig already at OC Weekly. Yeah, the pay was crappy, and the audience was just Orange County, but my mission was to make Orange County a better place to live in, and that was not going to happen at the LA Times. And I would write for other publications as well if I had to scratch that itch. Like I would come out on NPR shows or public radio shows, nationally syndicated. I would write for Reason Magazine, a libertarian publication, little things here and there. So when I finally landed at the LA Times, I mean, I never got told, oh, you can't write this. I mean, I honestly got more in trouble by my jefe Hector Becerra for the stuff I would tweet. And I have not gotten reprimanded, and it'd be more like, hey, Gustavo, you really shouldn't be saying that or going that far or anything like that. I never got in trouble. It's more just like, hey, man, I'm telling you this as someone who cares about you. So I haven't done that in a while, so hey, I guess I learned. But no, I never said I never got a talking to saying you can't write this way, you have to write the LA Times way. It was a natural meld. I mean, part of it was though in 2018, I got brought on as a columnist for the opinion section as a freelancer. So it was a weekly column, but it was on a freelance basis. So so I kind of got the hang of how to write for the LA Times. And of course, every writer is going to be a little bit different, but the LA Times voice, I was able to master. I don't want to say that, but I was able to figure out how to do pretty quickly. So if there was conversation, I mean, the one thing
without losing your personal voice though, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, writing, and I get it. Every publication has a different voice, and your job is to be able to either master it or at least mimic it. So I wrote for the New Yorker, they had a style. NPR, they had a style. I still write for Alta Journal, they have a style. Everything's different. And so for the Times, it's a lot of information compact, but done in a literary way that allows you to be funny. But it depends. I got more leeway than other writers when I was just a reporter for sure, and definitely as a columnist. And if there was a vetting process, I mean, I wouldn't know. I mean, it's kind of just what the LA Times does. You go through multiple interviews with various people. They want to sort of gauge who you are. The most quote unquote, not even warning, but Shelby Grad, who's Hector's jefe, he, before I started, he told me you're coming in with not with an attitude, you're coming in with a reputation, but he meant it in a good way. He was saying people are really excited that you're going to start working for us and they can't wait to see what you're going to do. And he said, and I told him, Shelby, as far as I'm concerned, I have no reputation with LA Times. I'm your newest employee. I have to prove myself to everyone. And here I am. It was almost I started December of 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. It's almost going to be 4 years that I've been with the LA Times, and I still feel that I have to prove myself. And I don't mean that in a, in a hurt way or in a bitter way. It's just reality. It's okay, I'm a columnist. Okay. And what, but I gotta keep pushing. I gotta keep topping myself. I got to keep doing better and better, because if I don't, then I shouldn't have a job.
Yeah. Well, working and producing at such a high volume, I mean, it comes with a lot of expectation, I assume, but not only from the readers and your followers, but, yourself as a writer. In what ways do you kind of keep a balance where you just, how do you know what's going to click and what's not going to click, and just kind of, because like you said, you have, if you're writing, if you contribute to different outlets, everybody has a different type of voice. Everybody has a certain type of expectation. How do you just kind of keep it all in perspective and balance to make sure that it's reaching to the point where you're like, all right, this is ready to go. This is ready to file.
I'm not writing for anyone. I'm only writing for myself. If I try to write for maximum clicks or maximum views, I wouldn't be writing about what I'm writing about. And what do I write about? Things that interest me. I write about how I see Southern California at the moment. And more importantly, I always think, especially as a columnist, you have to be prophetic. The prophetic voice is that you call out what's ahead of you and what's in front of you and how things are right now. And more importantly, you do not kowtow to any group or any person. You just write the truth, whatever it is. It's not a style of journalism for everyone. I call it vibe journalism. Like people, you kind of have to sense what's going on more so than following data. Like, for baseball, I would say I'm a gut person. I think analytics are stupid. They tell you a whole bunch of things, but what fun is it figuring out things? Or what fun is it putting numbers into a machine and then the machine telling you how to do something? No, I'd rather just take my swings and figure it out on my own.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let me get a little bit something a little bit in off the side. Okay, so your wife Delilah, I just saw that she owns the Alta Baja market.
Yeah,
correct. Now, where's that located at?
Downtown Santana off of 4th and Bush.
Yeah, okay, so everybody out there listening, go over there and visit and, spend some money. Okay, I saw she was just awarded a nice grant from Siete Family Foods, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how is it being the spouse of a store owner? Because it seems like you guys are both, those are two stressful occupations. Who has the more stress in their life?
Oh, she does. 1,000,000%. It's different. It's different type of stress, but like I tell people, I like getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. She barely started paying herself last year, and like her paycheck, she only gets like $5 a paycheck. Because she'd rather everyone else get paid. She has, she's a sole owner. She has no investors. I don't know how people are their own bosses. It's insane. I don't know how people run a business. That's crazy. All the stuff that she has to deal with, but it's something that she loves. So myself, I support her 100%, but like, if you are a spouse of someone who runs their own business, well, you're an unpaid employee. Yeah. So like, just this morning, what did I do? Well, almost every morning I pick up produce from the wholesaler, then drop it off, and it's not too far away, so that's fine. I'll run the register. I'll wash dishes. I'll take out the trash, of course, sweep, whatever needs to be done. And it's hard though, because I also have my own job to do. Thankfully, my job is flexible, but at the same time, like, well, I still need to do my work as well. So like sometimes my wife needs me and I can't help her, and she doesn't get mad. She understands that, but like, it's hard. It is really, really hard, but it makes her happy. And, so that makes me happy. If it makes her happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work.
I guess so.
Yeah. Now, do you ask her, does she give you feedback for your work? Do you offer, hey, will you read this before I file it?
No,
you do that?
No. She brags how she doesn't read my work because she listens to me. She listens to me all the time.
No, I mean, now let me ask you this, because, I think sometimes, as we know, like, we get praise from our work, but the negative stuff always resonates with us most, and people always tend to kind of focus on like the negative responses, the kind of hysteria, or maybe it's like negative stuff. Does she read any of that, and does it give her anxiety? Like, hey, Gustavo, like I don't like the way people are reacting to this. Does she get worried about you?
I mean, yes, of course. She always makes the joke that when we bought our house, I was also on book tour, and I had also outed white supremacists. So I left her alone. I'm going around the country. White supremacists are like trying to issue death threats to me, and she's all by herself at her home. So she does worry about some of the things that I write, because it's tough. It's tough. I mean, look, when I started writing about the sheriff of Los Angeles, Alex Villanueva, like he was a vengeful guy. So the first thing I did was like, hey, when I'm out and about, I used to have 2 cocktails. Now I'm only having 1, if any at all. And I'm going to really just wash it down with a bunch of water, because the last thing I need to do is get pulled over and I'm over the limit, because that's what some people would love to see me do. So, Hector always says that with the LA Times comes a bigger target, just because you're now writing for a far bigger publication, a far bigger audience, and all of that. And it's true. That hasn't made me change how I do my journalism. But we've lost friendships over my writings. I've lost friends. we've lost friendships. I really have not lost friends per se, but I always tell people, you better do good, because if you do bad, I'm gonna write about it, and I'm not gonna take no pleasure in it, but I'm going to be extra happy or extra sad when I go after you, but I'm still gonna go after you.
Yeah, you got to
Like
do it.
I mean, I'm already, though I'm a loner to be, in general. Because again, I was a nerd. I have like my friends that I've had them since junior high. They were my cousins, and so I know I'm never going to lose them. And then over the years, you pick up new friends like yourself. Like I know I'm never going to lose you, but we're always going to have, even though we're far away, we're going to have each other's back. So, but it's like slowly but surely, and I actually have to write a newsletter. I'm friendly to everyone, but I'm friends to very few people, because if you're going to be my friend, like, you're going to have to realize that I'm me, and which means that I could turn on you if you do something bad.
Yeah.
And not everyone could take that.
What type of public figure do you fear the most when writing about? Is it politicians? Is it law enforcement? Is it white supremacists? Like,
I'm not afraid. I'll never be afraid of any of them. They're all different in their own ways, but they're all the same. That if I'm writing about a white supremacist, law enforcement, or a politician, for the most part, they got in trouble. They got in trouble because of themselves. They're their own worst enemies, because they're egomaniacs. Egomaniacs are scary people, yes, but I'm not scared of writing about them, because my job is to write the truth. And if I didn't want to write about the truth, then I would not be covering the people that I'm covering. I take no joy. People think like, oh, he wants to talk trash on this person or that person. No. I'd rather honestly just cover, not feel-good stories all the time, but I like to tell stories that inspire folks, stories that get people motivated to do something or tell us about who we are as Californians. Sadly, part of being a Californian is political corruption, and so those are stories that really reporters don't want to write, but I'm not going to shy away from them. If I have a scoop, I'm going to follow it until until the story is done. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that. So I saw that you have 3 books out. You have Ask a Mexican, which is a compilation of the columns. Now, did you have any issues with OC Weekly when you put that book out?
No, because we had cool bosses at the time.
Okay, so it's it's after you put it out, you can't do anything, or it's like you got that book out just in time.
No, because that came out in 2007. We didn't get our new owner until 2016, the Dirk owner, and so by then it was all done. But no, I mean, people still come up to me and say like, "Oh, I love to Ask a Mexican." I'm like, "Yeah, I liked it too," but I don't write that column anymore. I haven't written in 5 years. And yeah, that was then. This is now. Read my column now. That's the column that I'm writing.
Most definitely.
And it's better. And I love Ask a Mexican, but this column's better.
I still remember all those. Still remember those. I'm telling you, man, this is some classic stuff. And my sense of humor still hasn't changed. So I will still go back over there. And even if Ask a Mexican now rubs people the wrong way, I'm like, you know what?
You see, though, like, because this is now, it's been gone for 5 years. So it hasn't been in people's, like, I bet you people will rediscover Ask a Mexican.
They will.
And put it in its proper context. The proper context is that there's always, and I always told people, Ask a Mexican is really not anything new. I'm continuing a long tradition of ethnic humor in American letters, where you would have these usually columnists write about their community in a way that was very bracing, but had a lot of in-jokes for them and criticized white supremacy at large. This was a staple of American humor. And like, do I consider myself a humorist? No, but it was, what I brought into that column was that it was about Mexicans. I didn't take myself seriously, but yet very seriously. And I did a lot of reporting for that column as well. So history, and Ask a Mexican always had critics. It would have been interesting to see Ask a Mexican continue in this age, like the Wocoso age. But the Wocosos were always there to begin with. I always had people who did not like Ask a Mexican. When I read Ask a Mexican now, if I had to critique it, I would say like, yeah, maybe I had too many jokes about sex. Like they were crude, but but yeah. but I stand by everything I wrote. And people say like, oh, you were mocking Central Americans, and I'm like, you missed the point of me mocking specifically Guatemalans, because I was highlighting the very real anti-Central American sentiments that exist among Mexicans. I don't feel them. I've never felt them, but I needed to make sure that the audience realized that, yes, it was true. I mean, what other columnist was willing to eviscerate their own community for their own racism? I don't see other folks doing it. So again, history will absolve me on that column.
Yeah, I always felt reading Ask a Mexican that the responses, like you were always defending. The responses were always defiant, and whoever was asking maybe a kind of the question was always kind of like trying to be demeaning, but the responses were always like, yeah. So I was just like, yeah, that's the response I would give if I knew how to speak that quickly on this particular subject. But I was just like, I'm reading it and I'm behind the response like, fuck yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and laughing along at the same time.
Yeah. Look, in the entirety of Ask a Mexican, again, what grounds me is knowing 99.999% of people have no idea what Ask a Mexican is. That grounds me. So that's the perspective that you asked about earlier. But of the people who do reach out, who knows? Maybe most of the people who read Ask a Mexican hated it. But the people who reach out to me throughout its entire run, overwhelmingly positive. Now I'm getting the people who say, hey, I'm a fan of yours, and I got into you because my dad used to read Ask a Mexican to me to make me proud of my Mexican heritage. Yeah. And that's awesome.
It's a celebration. It really is a celebration. It is kind of a celebration.
Like, it's nice to hear that, but again, like that was never my intent in writing has never been to uplift people. It's always been comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, and that's everyone. And if people want to extrapolate more meaning from everything that I write, then that's cool. But if they don't, hey, again, you're part of the 99.999% of people who don't know me. So all I could do is write for myself at the end.
Yeah, it reminded me of like a Richard Pryor, watching Richard Pryor, his live performances and those type of jokes that, before we started seeing a lot of like Chicano comics come up, and before we started seeing like Paul Rodriguez and stuff like that, we watched black comedians and the way they kind of like celebrated and poked fun of all the things that they knew about growing up black in America. And so of course they use the N-word a lot, and that's something that we don't, but like we're not going to be calling ourselves beaners all the time and all that stuff. But however, if you grew up watching Richard Pryor and Red Fox and a lot of that, Rudy Ray Moore and all that stuff, Ask a Mexican was just like, oh yeah, it's just an extension of that.
It was a far more nerdy version. And I think that's what shocked people. Is like, okay, this guy's a total nerd, but he's vulgar as hell. Yeah. He is saying this, and that. And not only that, this is a nerd who fights. I think that's what people get most surprised about me, because you see me. I'm not that tall. I'm relatively skinny. I'm definitely not athletic. But when I put myself on the page, I'm like, people are like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he no se deja at all.
Yeah. Do people ever come up to you and want to debate you like out in public, or you're just kind of like, hey, I'm here if anybody wants to talk to me, and everybody just avoids you?
I'm the great John L. Sullivan, and I'll beat any son of a bitch in the house. That's what the first heavyweight champion, Irish guy from Boston used to do. He'd go into these pubs and say, announce, I am the great John L. Sullivan, and I'll beat any son of a bitch in the house. And that would never happen. No, of course not. Like, people, there was one, I'm very much about the rules of engagement. In other words, like, if you want to debate me, that's cool. There's a time and a place for that. But like, if that's not the time and the place, I'll shut you down fast. So I remember one time I was at some party and the guy's like, oh, you're Ask a Mexican, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. And then we're just talking, and then he wants to talk about immigration. I'm like, dude, no. I barely know you. You're not paying me. Not that you have to pay me to do these things, but like, no, I'm not going to do it. He got all pissed off at me. He's like, oh, I thought you were cool. I'm like, I'm trying to hang out here right now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're my friend, yeah, let's debate. I mean, there's at my my wife's store, she has a regular, and I know him as well. And we get into, and he's more conservative than I am, but he's not a Trumper. But we get into debates like for 45 minutes. He'll get his breakfast and we'll just talk and talk and talk. My wife calls it the great debates. She's mocking us. But like, Yeah, I do that because like I get it. That's just sort of what we've created now. But for the most part, if people go up to me, they just say, "Hey, I'm a big fan." I've been told by people, "I don't like your work," and I tell them, "Thank you for even knowing who I am." And just at that point, I'm very good at disarming people. I'm very, very good at that because due to my profession, like you have to learn how to disarm situations and fast.
Yeah, any response is better than no response.
Exactly.
It sucks when you put something out and nobody responds. That's the fucking worst feeling.
It's heartbreaking. I tell people, you really want to insult me? Don't call me this, and that. Don't even know who I am. Or nowadays, like people say, like, "Oh yeah, you used to work for the Orange County Register." I'm like, "No, it's OC Weekly. I just got, are like, oh, that, huh? What? Who are you? Like, oh, that's or the best. No. You know this. The best is when I get mistaken as that awesome cartoonist. I'm like, not only is it racist because you're assuming there's only one Mexican who does all the media stuff, but it's also insulting because, like, I'm not Lalo Alcaraz. He's brilliant. He's incredible. I am not him. Like, and to think I am up to his standards, that's horrible. That is a bit, and it happens all the time too.
Have you guys done a lot of? I know you guys have, but like, how often do you guys show up to do something at the same event together? Like, you both speak, or you interview him, or he interviews you?
Yeah, that hasn't happened in a while. We used to do it more often, like go speak to high school conferences. I think the last time actually was at the University of Notre Dame a couple of years ago.
Wow, man.
Yeah, that would have been 2000. This is before the pandemic, so it's 2019. Yeah, because it snowed and we got brought in. It was myself, Lalo, Adrian, Felix. They had like a symposium, and we each had our own talk, and then they brought us all together to talk. And that was really, really cool. No, Lalo's a great friend of mine. Like, he always shows up in Grita Leguti. We're always texting each other, bouncing stuff off of each other. But Lalo's amazing. Lalo's his own world. I'm just a crazy ass columnist.
Yeah, you guys both have like a really interesting. Your careers. Love following both you guys. I mean, it's definitely. It makes me proud. Like, wow, these guys are out there. They I love the fact I don't see it as like, oh, I can't wait to see who they piss off next. But the thing about it is that the responses that you get, like, that's what you want. You want people to talk. There's going to be people who are going to be down with it. There's going to be people against it. But if people don't care, that's the fucking worst. It's like, you want people to be pissed off. Maybe, you don't want people throwing insults and all that stuff because, that's the easy way out. But you want people to talk about it, and love the fact that people are still very interested in you, and they should, because you really, I mean, you guys still have a lot of years ahead to start some more shit. Yeah, and, let me bring this because we'll kind of head in towards the end of this, getting into like teaching and the future of journalism. Are you still on campus anywhere?
Oh, yeah. No, this semester I am a co-advisor to the Coast Report at Orange Coast College, my alma mater. Sadly, I didn't have enough students sign up for the regular class that I teach, but I am going to teach it next semester. And then at Chapman University, my other alma mater, I'm teaching the Latinx history of Orange County, which hopefully I'll be able to teach every year now.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what are some of the teaching methods that you use in the messaging to students? Because it seems like journalism students today and journalism programs, communications programs, I mean, I don't even know what they're teaching them these days. It's probably something different than when I was taught, because print and everything was around, but now it's completely different. But what are some of the methods and the messaging that you use when teaching these students who might think about pursuing journalism or some form of communications?
Wow, Matt. You're actually treating me as a professor and as someone who might have some insights about being a professor, and not just treating me like a Mexican. Kudos to you, man. This is real deep. You're seeing me, man. You're seeing me.
I am, brother.
No, I know, and I know you do. I know you do. Thank you for that. But no, above all, I teach them the prime. It doesn't matter what format you're in. People want to see, hear, read, consume, whatever you want to call it, a great story. If you have a crappy story, it'll catch up to you. Your job then is to figure out what makes a great story. Then how do you tell that story? And I could teach them methods. I could teach them, certain tricks, like, depending on the class. I love teaching. I teach narrative nonfiction. So that's where, we just teach you how to do big, huge stories. But I love teaching intro to journalism because I would do a whole class, like, let's do a class on bias and objectivity. Let's do a class on how to interview people. Let's do a class on how to write a lead, and so the micro things. And this is the one thing, though, that I will say, I still teach written form. So the classes that I'm teaching is about writing journalism. It's not about audio journalism. That's different. It's not about multi-platform journalism. That's going to be different. So, I do tell students that if you really do care about journalism, if you want a career in journalism, make sure to take classes in all these other things. But do not forget the primacy of the story, and also that journalism is a hard occupation. And if you really want to advance, you have to be basically on call 24/7. Yes, you should take time for yourself, but the news does not sleep, and it is up to you to go find the news wherever it may be and not allow other people to beat you to it.
Yes.
If that makes me antiquated, well, so be it. I've always been old.
No, but I think I've always been curious about what goes on in the classrooms these days. Like, I don't, I haven't been asked to speak at any of the writing classes. I did a couple times when I was at the Bakersfield Californian, when everything was going really well, and social media was something new. And so I had kind of jumped into that.
Yeah.
I had been hired at the time when, I had the mental capacity to like absorb everything and show all the OG reporters like what it was all about. And little by little, the OG reporters just started to leave the business because they're like, I don't know, I can't keep up with this anymore. I'm used to the way print is done, and this internet thing, I don't want to have to produce as quickly. And so the next wave of reporters came in, and I just happened to jump in. I had no plans to become a reporter, and I knew what my strengths were going to be. So I jumped into that. But everybody that I've spoken to today, I said, hey, do you have any, like, what are you going to do after school? And, I don't think I'm going to continue in journalism. I'm like, well, why are you even going to school for it? I just don't understand what the mindset is. What are you hearing from some of the students? I mean, are they just taking it because they have to take it as part of like a series of classes they have to take? Or do they really, really want to get into the news?
I mean, I could tell you that I've had students at Orange Coast College take my class as a elective and then get interested into becoming a journalist and enrolling in journalism programs. And they've cited my names when they try to get a job somewhere, and they've asked me for letters of recommendation. I've given it to them. I tell it always was to begin with. There's obviously less jobs now, at least in the traditional ways. But again, if you have a story to tell, there will be an audience for it somewhere. There'll be a platform for you to be able to want to tell those stories. Like, it is all there, but it is a lot of work, and you have to go out there and do all of that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is an audience out there. Okay, so let's move into the present to wrap this up. What do you have going on? What are some of the projects you have in the pipeline?
Well, the big story that I'm doing now is it's a series, and I don't like doing projects. I don't like to be intentional about things. Mm-hmm. But this one I announced recently. I'm doing a series on Latino political power in Los Angeles, focusing on 4 case studies, all different areas of Los Angeles proper. So the East Side, South LA, the San Fernando Valley, and then what's called CELA, Southeast LA, a collection of cities like it would be Southgate, Bell Gardens, Maywood, all of that. I'm going to do that before the end of the year. But then I want to expand that to examine Latino political power across California, because I've covered some of those dynamics in the Valley, especially in Kern, and Wasco, to be very, very specific. Mm-hmm. But politics in Kern County for Latinos is going to be way different than politics, say, in San Bernardino County, which are going to be different from Orange County. Like, I'm just interested at how Latino political power plays out. And more importantly, what are the lessons? Like, the politicos, they all know each other, especially on the state legislature level. They know each other for the most part. But I think the masses at large, they really don't know. And all they do is see from afar, like, oh, in the East Side, in Boyle Heights, they're always fighting with each other. It's crazy. In South LA, historically black, but now majority Latino, like there's no Latino representatives. What's up with that? In Cela, those cities there made news for a good decade for all the huge corruption scandals that were going on there. Now you have a new generation of young politicians who are trying to clean it up. So like people know what's going on from afar, but they don't really know the stories from within. And that's what I want to do. And then I'm just curious, like,
Mm-hmm.
I know up in Kern, like, okay, there's a Latino council member, or rather Latino supervisor, but what's their story? Like, why isn't there more Latinos on the board of supervisors? Like, Delano is going to be different from, say, Arvin, and they're going to be different from, for sure, like, what's up in Fresno and all of that. And I just don't think, the public at large knows those stories. And I'm just curious. And again, for me, this is not representation of Latinos per se. For me, it's like this is the political development of the group that's now the plurality in California. No one has really told the bigger story or the historical story overall. I see an opportunity. If I'm not going to do it, I don't want someone to beat me to it,
Any direction you need over in our area, please, by all means, reach out, because there's a lot. Like I've told you this, my father being the first Mexican councilman here in McFarland, where I grew up, and being one of the two Latino politicians right in our area, like I didn't know what he was. I used to say, looking back at it now, and I was like, what were you thinking at the time? You had a very thick accent, but for some reason, he just thought, hey, I'm surrounded by all these white guys. And I'm the Mexican guy in there, and he was the foreman at the winery, and somehow we got in there. But yeah, I think that's an excellent project. I mean, an excellent endeavor for you to get into and to dig into. Now, what about movies? Any scripts? Hey, listen, you had the brush with Hollywood and TV, but are you ever thinking about going back into that?
No, Hollywood is a disgusting industry in many, many ways. I have no intent of going back. Look, never say never, of course. If there was a project offered to me, I'm not going to say no. They always say take a meeting. In fact, I'm going to take a meeting later this afternoon. We'll see how that goes. But I have no illusions of ever going back into Hollywood. Those, I have friends in the industry. Those who make it into the industry, that's great, and I applaud them. They have to tell our stories. I get it. Not everyone's into journalism. That's fine. But like for me, it ain't for me. Let's just say that.
Well, what about calling up your cousin, Jessica?
The funny thing is, I think it's her first cousin or second aunt, but someone who's related closer to her. In other words, someone who saw her grow up before she became Jessica Alba. She's a huge, huge, huge fan of mine. Like, I'm sure I could pass a message to her and to Jessica, and my fan would pass it along. And she's a professor now in Pueblo, Colorado. But I'm not that type of person. I'm not that type of person at all.
Oh man, that would be great though. She's probably just waiting. I wish he would just call. I hope he,
Yeah.
She could probably. Well, she's probably doing pretty well right now. Maybe she was big during the good, when you could actually make money in Hollywood. Now she's like, you don't even see her on the picket line. She's like, you know what? I've kind of had enough of that.
Because she's now a mogul with her what's it called? Not Beyond. Her whatever her wellness company is.
Oh,
she's made a lot of money off of that.
Yeah, she's doing all that. But
she's great.
Oh yeah, totally. No, she's doing really, really good. Now, let me ask you this: so the Hollywood writer strike and the way that all that stuff, I mean, the Screen Actors Guild and all that stuff's been going down, and I think the one thing that I would see from the outside, just following all the news, is that the ones who got screwed the most were the ones who were, at the time, not even working that much to begin with, which is the Latino actors. And, right behind the black actors, I think the black actors they've already broken into Hollywood really, really, and they're solid. But there will always be some form of struggle to try to get their stories told and to see more black actors on the big screen. But, I mean, Latino actors, we're way at the bottom. And I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get up there. But, when the strike's going on, I could just imagine what the Latino actors who are really struggling to begin with. They're sitting back there. They're on the picket lines waiting. Come on, you guys, just figure this shit out because we want to get back to work. We're barely working as it is. But, what are your thoughts on all that?
all actors were struggling, all of them. I mean, I would not know the racial breakdown of who was getting less work than others. I mean, there's not that many Latino actors to begin with in comparison to Hollywood. Chris Rock, who by the way is my favorite comedian of all time, he wrote a legendary essay for the Hollywood Reporter about Hollywood, and in it he basically said Hollywood was like a slave society, and that Latinos were basically thought of as slaves, as the help. And he had that line like, "You're in LA, you have to try to not hire Mexicans because they're all around."
Mm-hmm.
And this is 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and he did the thing about they cleaning the houses in Beverly Hills, and I remember that. Great story.
This was 7 years ago. And here we are. Things have marginally improved, but no, the strike was a huge thing. The great thing with both SAG-AFTRA and WGA strike was that there was solidarity for everyone. It wasn't like the established people saying, we're going to screw over the unestablished people. Far from it. They want more people, and they want more people to have access to what they're able to have and not mortgage the future for those people, So the SAG-AFTRA strike continues. The WGA strike, of course, was settled, and people were happy with that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I always say the big issue with Hollywood is always going to be that we need Latino executives. What good is it if you have a whole bunch of actors and even writers if the people who are making the money decisions are not Latino and they don't understand what our stories are? Yeah. I mean, this is why it is important to. And that said, it's not just representation. I mean, you and I talked about the Flaming Hot movie, and we both got in trouble for it. But I stand by my words. I'm not going to support something that's crap. On the other hand, you should support the good, like This Fool by Chris Estrada, who was my guest judge for my KCRW Tortilla tournament. Brilliant, funny, hilarious show. Chris is great. Michael Imperioli is always awesome. And more importantly, it tells people about a side of Los Angeles, Latinos in South LA, that had never really gotten any representation, let alone is known outside of, even in Los Angeles. A lot of people don't know that South LA has been majority Latino for a long time. So support those great projects. Don't support crap projects. Support the great projects.
Yeah, that was a great score. How did that happen? Did he call you, or did you contact him?
No, I just hit him up. I'm like, hey man, do you want to be a guest judge? He's like, oh, I've never done it before. Okay, sure. And that was it.
That's great.
It helped that he was a fan of mine to begin with, which is very cool. The other big name who's a fan of mine, Shea Serrano. I hope to ask him in a couple of years, but he's also a big fan of mine. I mean, he said it out loud, Ask a Mexican was always big for me, and I just love what Gustavo does, which is crazy because he's huge. But no, I just asked Chris, and Chris was everything I thought he would be, and then some.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, well, congratulations on that, man. And I'm glad you're still continuing that. I posted up that picture. It was actually, my wife still had it on her phone. She remember this? And I was like, wow, wow, that was a good time. The whole Tacolandia thing. And then it just
oh yeah, that's Bill Esparza. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And then, you came in to kind of try to take it to another level. And then of course, the LA Weekly, No, it was all Bill. My job. Yeah. People call me in. I'm like Winston Wolfe in Pulp Fiction. They call me in to they call me in to make sense of chaos. And so Bill, he invited me one year as a judge. I was a judge. I'm like, all right, cool, this is awesome. And then I could tell the person in charge of the judges was not doing the job. So then he's like, all right, Gustavo, you're now in charge of the judges. And I regulated that stuff. Sadly, the last Tacolandia was 2017, and it was the best one ever. It was there in Olvera Street. It was absolutely magnificent. And he still does festivals. He had one in Portland, but he's not going to fly me out there. There's no reason to. He'll have other people, and it's smaller than what Tacolandia was. But no, Bill is absolutely amazing. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think the last time I saw Bill Esparza, I ran into him at it was the LA Times. It was the thing at Paramount Studios.
Oh, sure, football.
Yeah, I went to one of those. I think it was right after Jonathan Gold had died.
Okay.
It was right after that, and I ran into him in there, and yeah, that was a really nice experience. It was in the evening. We had a really good time, but it was then the pandemic comes in and then just kind of erases so many things. A lot of people What's Tacolandia? I'm like, because there's so many taco festivals now. It's like, they just forget about like all the original ones that kind of helped to spark that whole series of events. Okay, last question. What do you envision the 2024 election season to be like?
Chaos. Absolute chaos. Look, it's democracy. Nothing's like, it's not going to be the downfall of the United States. It's not going to be any of that. I mean, I really don't know. Now you see what's happening in Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
That I see Trump praising, Trump calling Hezbollah a terrorist organization. Very smart. That's not really going to sit well with American Jews, or Jews anywhere, or any good people anywhere in the world. Trump has a cult. That cult, the problem with cults is that they're hard to deprogram and they will go down fighting. There's also younger Democrats who have an issue with Joe Biden. I've always been a fan of Joe Biden. I continue to be a fan of Joe Biden. I do wish he would have been a one-term president. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris. So I want him to run again. And the Democratic Party, to its credit, they're not running. No serious Democrat is planning to run against Joe, and we'll see. I still think, it all depends, though. It's all about the economy. Here in California, obviously you folks are different in Kern. Down here in Southern California, even Orange County, Biden's going to win against Trump because people just really loathe Trump. We'll see who Trump's going to get as his vice president. It's only going to be a member of the cult. There's no way he's going to get someone moderate. Pence was not a moderate at all, but at least he would get a certain evangelical vote at the time when people thought like, Trump was he's like Solomon or he's David. He's an imperfect king that we need right now. No, now he's just a lunatic. We'll see who decides to run alongside with him. And then obviously in California, the interesting race is going to be for the U.S. Senator seat that is currently, the one that Dianne Feinstein used to have until she passed away. It'll remain to be seen if the person that Gavin Newsom appointed is going to continue to run. That's going to be interesting. Steve Garvey's not going to win, not in a million years.
I heard about that.
And then in 2026, that's going to be the race for governor. Like, who is going to, is a Latino going to run for governor right now? Well, yes, you do have one. Tony Thurmond, he's half Panamanian. He's a secretary of education. But, will Tony be able to be Elena, our lieutenant governor, Koulanakis, or whatever her last name is? I can't remember right now. We'll see. I know I'm going to be covering it one way or another.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be wild. Well, that's the thing. It seems when I ask people that question, people like in the news, and I ask them, so what do you think about 2024? And oh, yeah, that's right. It's coming up. We're almost there. Yeah. It's going to be really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And then it makes them think. And, hey, well, what about the Olympics? You got the Olympics coming up in 2028 in L.A. Like, how do you see that whole thing kind of falling apart or going well?
They're gentrifying people. They're adding all this stuff. It's going to be like the Olympics were in '84.
Yeah.
They're just going to clear out all the homeless encampments and there's going to be no traffic and everything's going to be clean. Look, I love the Olympics. I know how corrupt they are. Don't completely corrupt, but I don't hold it against the athletes. I'm ready. I'm not going to go to any of the events because, again, I don't cover sports, but I'm sure I'll do stories surrounding it. But you just have to. You can't romanticize what these things are. It's like you can't romanticize the Dodgers. They just want your money. At the end, they just want your money. They're otherwise not going to be there for you, and you pull out of them whatever meaning you have, but they usually don't want it. So same thing with the Olympics. It'll be cool, but I'm not going to romanticize anything.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, brother. Well, thank you so much for spending this much time with me. I was like, I don't think we're ever going to be able to do this interview because he's just too busy and I don't want to bother him. But I really appreciate it, man.
I already have 3 Slack messages and 5 phone calls that I have to do, but I gave my commitment to do this, and so I'm doing it.
You are a man of honor. You are a man of honor, a journalist, an author, professor, multimedia show host, part-time rabble-rouser, no, media gadfly, maybe. But you are also cousin of Jessica Alba. 3 times removed, right?
Yep.
That's what's on your Wikipedia page. By the way, you need to go there and do some updates because it kind of ends there.
I don't care. I really don't care.
Well, I've gone in and I fixed a couple people that I've interviewed. I've updated their Wikipedia pages because somebody's gone in and put a completely different URL for their official website. Like Bamba, I fixed her Wikipedia page. And maybe I'll just go in there and I'll add your website to it.
That would be kind.
Yeah, because there's nothing there. It's like, well, Gustavo's website isn't even on here. It just says journalist and then third cousin to Jessica Alp.
That's all I'm known for. That's fine. If that's all I'm known for, it's a good life.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.
Same to you, man. Thank you again.
Peace. Bye-bye. Thank you y muchas gracias, Gustavo Arellano, for being on the Baco Tunes podcast. I hope you all learn more about the man, the myth, the Mexican. If you'd like to subscribe to Gustavo's weekly newsletter, as you should, visit gustavoarellano.org and check it out. I'll also hyperlink it in the podcast episode info box. Side note, if you'd like to meet another SoCal journalism legend documenting SoCal life, go check out my interview with writer and DJ Liz Ohanessian from April 2023. Special thanks to my audio sponsors, the law offices of Chen Cone Clark, my beautiful and talented wife Miranda for voicing the show bookends, and of course, you, my loyal listeners, for hanging out, subscribing, and sharing. A special fan shout out to Tito La Riva and the Plugz. You heard a clip of the classic punked up versions of La Bamba at the beginning of the show. I just read Tito is getting ready to get back to live music this year. Come back to California, ese. All right, let's have a great year. Wait, before we go, stay till the very end for a flamin' hot bonus segment with Gustavo from June 9th, 2023. You're going to dig it. Orale. Thanks for tuning in to the Baco Tunes podcast. See you next time.
The Baco Tunes podcast with Matt Munoz. New episodes every week. And for the latest, be sure to follow us at Baco Tunes on Instagram. That's BAKOTUNES. And be sure to like us, rate us, comment at us, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back next time.
Okay, so Flamin' Hot, which premieres today on Disney Plus and Hulu. It's directed by Eva Longoria. It's been one of these projects that I guess they've been trying to get off the ground. It's the story about it's based on the memoir of Richard Montañez. He was a Frito-Lay janitor who claimed to have invented the snack food Flamin' Hot Cheetos. There's the romanticized or possibly real premise for a movie, which people had been waiting for it to come out. It's finally come to fruition.
It's the typical Latino story, right? We make something American better.
Yeah, okay, but then, here it is. So we've been reading the stories about it, but then the LA Times had run a story, I believe it was maybe a couple years ago, that this story might not be true. Gustavo, give us the deets.
It's not true. Why are you guys hedging your bets that might not be true? It's absolutely not true. So the premise is Richard Montañez, for the past 20-some years, he's been telling anyone who will listen that he invented Flaming Hot Cheetos, that he was working as a janitor at the Frito-Lay plant down in Rancho Cucamonga. One day gets inspired by a CEO to give him an idea. He's like, hey, by the way, Mexicans, we love hot stuff on our stuff, on our snacks, and we love Cheetos. So let's do Flaming Hot Cheetos. So everyone believed him, including me, by the way. I wrote a book in 2012 called Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America, where I said Richard Montañez invented Flaming Hot Cheetos. So flash forward, this is actually funny. I'll give you some cheese man, the journalism part. Flash forward to 2020, where my colleague Sam Dean said, hey, do you know the story of Flaming Hot Cheetos? I'm like, yeah, some guy invented it. He's like, well, I think it's not true. I'm like, what? I'm here for that. But then you know what happened? The pandemic. He literally told me that March 1st, 2020, 10 days later, everything gets scrapped. And in 2021, he finally gets back to it and says hey, the pandemic, we're still in the midst of it, but I think I can breathe a little bit now. I want to get back to this Flaming Hot Cheetos story. So I'm like, let me just read it, just see if it passes the bull you-know-what factor. So I read it. First, people are like, oh, my God, that's not true. But then Chicanos being Chicanos, they started churning on the LA Times. Oh, typical LA Times, trying to tear down one of our Mexican heroes.
If people want to read that story, you can go on Google, and it's still available for everybody to read. Correct? They didn't make him take it down or anything.
No, not at all. And the premise of Sam's story, by the way, was that yes, a lot of the bio of Richard Montañez does pan out. He was a janitor in Rancho Cucamonga. He did become a Frito-Lay executive, but at the same time that Richard said that he claims that he invented Flaming Hot Cheetos, there was already other people in the Frito-Lay company working toward that exact same product. And the idea of spicy snacks on a Cheeto-style snack, for lack of a better term, it was already known in Chicago. There's this brand that I don't know because I'm not from Chicago, but the Chicago folks, they all said, yeah, we always thought Frito-Lay ripped it off from us. So Sam's reporting was impeccable. Frito-Lay did not ask for any corrections or clarifications, and even more damning, this is where people forget, NPR's Planet Money did an entire episode based on Richard Montañez's claims after the fact, and the story's still there. If you go to Planet Money, Flaming Hot Cheetos, they didn't issue a retraction, but they basically said Richard Montañez is full of bull, and we got played by him. It's all there.
Wow.
So has Frito-Lay came out and made a comment about this, or they're just like, hey, we're going with the story?
They've always tried to play it both ways because it's such easy marketing for them. Because look, Mexicans, we love Flaming Hot everything. I never really cared for Flaming Hot Cheetos just because I like Doritos more, but I like Flaming Hot Doritos, you know?
Yeah.
Like we love that stuff. And so it was such a feel-good story. Everyone wanted it to be true. Wow, a janitor from the top and invented this iconic product? Yes. So, like, I don't have the story in front of me or, like, the whole fiasco, but basically Frito-Lay was trying to play it both ways. Eventually they said, yeah, Richard Montañez was involved in it, which, I mean, note that key word, was involved. That does not mean invented it, you know? And so people are trying to, it was so embarrassing to Chicanidad, who, by the way, like, you're going to side with a guy who claims to have invented this fattening, not healthy product that too many of our kids eat. Like, good one there. That's the hero that we want.
That's your
one,
hero. That's your
there,
king,
Chicano.
right?
That's
a good one there.
Yeah, that's wild. And, you know, one more thing is that during one of your taco treks, when you came through the Central Valley from L.A. and you drove all the way up, I don't know, did you go up to Sacramento? You stopped in Bakersfield and you tried one of the Flamin' Hot burritos, didn't you?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I mean, look, it's a gimmick. It was a gimmick food, but I enjoyed it. It was good enough. Like, I do not, again, I'm not hating on Flaming Hot Cheetos or people who like them. They're not my favorite snack. I just had a bag the other day. It was cool, but I'm just more of a Doritos fan because I think Doritos have it's a crispier flavor and just cheesier. I am hating on the people who lionize anyone who invented something like this. And then not only that, but spun a complete tall tale. And I have yet to see the movie. I guess I should because I do. You know, I've written about this in the past. But like Eva Longoria, from what I've heard about the movie, it's enjoyable. But she totally buys everything that he said, which is bull. Like she should have done like a Rashomon style investigation into the Flaming Hot story. But no, instead when a colleague of mine interviewed her a couple months ago, she trashed the LA Times for even bothering to investigate this stuff. Which, come on, Eva, give me a break.
Yeah, well, the stories are all out there. So, thank you, Gustavo. Flamin' Hot is out there. It's on Hulu and Disneyland. You know, if anything, support some Latino actors who are you can see them on screen. So whether you believe the story or not, whatever your opinions are on it, it's up to you. But thank you so much, Gustavo, for commenting on this. I knew we were going to have a great guest with Gustavo, and we look forward to having you on again when another Chicano movie comes on.
So that'll be in 5 years, right?
Hey, ese. The vato was just doing his pinchy job. Tú sabes.
Órale.